All right, today we're cracking open a case file on existence itself. This is a deep dive, a philosophical investigation into the very fabric of reality. Let's get into it.
And let's just get straight to the heart of the mystery. This is the central question we're tackling. Is all of this everything? Just a cosmic mistake? A glitch in the code? Or is the wild, unpredictable, chaotic nature of it all the whole point? So our investigation begins in a place called the Carnival of Skulls, a kind of desolate celestial theater. And our only piece of evidence to start with? A single stained blueprint of the cosmos. Everything revolves around what this document really means. Now, right at the center of this cosmic crime scene, we find two opposing forces. They're locked in this epic struggle over that blueprint, over what it all means. So let's get a look at our two main players in this conflict. On one side, you have Cynos, the Pale Cynic. He's the guardian of what we'll call stasis, perfect absolute order. And in the other corner, you've got Pan, the total embodiment of chaotic creation, the spirit of becoming. We're talking about two worldviews that just cannot coexist.
So let's start by examining the case for the prosecution, if you will, presented by Cynos. His big argument is for a universe of perfect, unchanging order. But, as we're about to see, this idea of perfection is a lot colder and a lot more lifeless than it sounds.
Cynos' argument is, well, it's pretty bleak. He says life is basically an accident. Any sense of a deal you think you have with the universe? It's written in disappearing ink. It's temporary, and eventually the page will be blank. He calls existence a tasteless broth of pointless movement. And our search for purpose? Oh, that's just a fancy way to hide from the deep, hollow fear of it all ending. It's a heavy perspective for sure, but one that definitely resonates with a lot of modern anxiety.
To really get what Cynos means by stasis, think of it like this. Imagine a computer program that crashes. It freezes. In that moment, it's perfectly ordered, right? Nothing is moving, nothing is out of place. But it's also completely useless. It's lifeless. That is the kind of perfection Cynos is championing, an order that has no life in it.
But of course, every argument has a counter-argument. So let's flip the file over to our other titan, Pan, and see how his worldview offers this wild, chaotic alternative to Cynos' frozen universe.
Now, Pan's philosophy is not exactly a comfort blanket. He argues that the absolute worst parts of existence, the fear, the pain, the suffering, they're not mistakes. In fact, they're essential. They're the bitter fertilizer that's absolutely necessary for growth, for change, for any real creation. Without that struggle, there's no spirit of becoming.
Becoming is the total opposite of stasis. It's not neat, it's not predictable. The best way to think about it is like a wild jazz improvisation. Yeah, you're going to have some clashing notes, some unexpected turns, moments of what seems like pure chaos, but it is 100% alive, dynamic, and creating something brand new in every single moment.
And here's the absolute key for Pan. Real value, the only honest currency there is, isn't found in being stable or predictable. It's found in the exact moment things break. It's in the sound of shattering expectations, shattering rules, and shattering those gilded cages of logic that keep us all locked up and prevent us from really living.
This brings us to a really critical turning point in our investigation. I mean, it's one thing to talk about chaos as an idea, but what happens when you unleash it on the world as an actual force? What does that look like in practice?
And wouldn't you know it, our case file just gave us a new lead. We have a second parable. And this one isn't some philosophical debate in a theater. No, this is a jailbreak. It's the story of chaos literally spilling out into a world of absolute rigid order.
And here are our agents of chaos. 3 primal siblings escaping their prison in a jagged spire. These aren't philosophers, they're forces of nature. You've got the wit, that's mockery and cleverness, the hunger, raw, untamed desire, and the small, the power of the overlooked, the underestimated, the things that grow in the cracks of the system.
Their mission is actually pretty simple. Find the structures of stasis and dismantle them. The source material calls them Apollonian gaskets, named after Apollo, the god of order. Basically, they're the seals of rigid logic that try to bind reality and keep anything from changing.
So how do they do it? Their first target is a great monarch, a sovereign who rules with absolute, unbending law. We're about to see the playbook of the absurd put Pan's philosophy into devastating practice.
Their strategy has 4 key steps. First, they show everyone that the sovereign's power is just a fragile contract, just like Sinus's disappearing ink. Second, they take his deepest fears, his nightmares, and turn them into public jokes. Third, they strip away all the comforting illusions, the robes, the titles, the prestige. And finally, they force him to face the raw, unfiltered reality of just how vulnerable he really is.
And their main weapon in all this? It isn't a sword, it isn't an army, it's mockery. It's unsettling humor. It's these smiles that aren't comforting at all. They're deeply unnerving because they reveal the absurd truth that's hiding right under the surface of all that rigid authority.
And the ultimate takeaway from what they do is this. True power, real sovereignty, it doesn't come from building walls and writing laws in stone. It comes from the power to unbind, to dismantle, to embrace the absurd, and to dance in the chaos. That's the final verdict from our second parable.
And with all the evidence presented, our official inquiry is closed. But, like any good mystery, the final verdict doesn't come from the detective. The case file is now yours. It's your turn to face the crucible of these ideas.
So let's start with this. Think about your own life, your job, your beliefs. What are the rigid rules, the gilded cages of logic that you've just accepted without even thinking about it? And what do you think would happen if they were shattered?
And chew on this one. When you see systems of absolute, unchanging order, whether that's in a company, a government, or even a person, is that a sign of real strength? Or, as Sinos and the Sovereign might suggest, is it just a mask for a deep, hollow fear of the unknown?
And finally, let's bring it all the way back to where we started. Senes claimed that life's contract is written in disappearing ink. Pan basically says that's the whole point. It means you can always write something new. So the question is really for you. Are you comfortable with a life that isn't set in stone? One where the meaning is temporary and has to be created over and over again? The case is closed, but the questions, they remain.